Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. I'm going to tell you a little bit about an event that happened when I was a kid. And I used to work at a Boy Scout camp during the summer. Now this Boy Scout camp was called Rancho Alegre. It is located in the San Ynez Valley up above Lake Cachuma. And it was located on hills and surrounded by oak trees and the kind of flora and fauna that you would see in the San Ynez Valley, mostly chaparral. So it was a beautiful place, a wonderful place to work. And on Rancho Alegre we had a lake called Lake Janus. And Lake Janus was about 200 yards long by about 100 yards wide. And if you walked in the hill right up above Lake Janus, you could see Lake Janus and then Lake Cachuma right down below that. Now, I was on camp staff when I was a Boy Scout, so we would have summer camp at Rancho Alegre. And so summer camp was run by 15 to 18-year-old boys, which created some mayhem, I suppose. But all the camp staff had a flair for dramatics. And one of the things that we really loved to do is that every Wednesday we would have an open campfire, and the campers there would invite their families to come up, and we would perform skits and songs and various theatrical things. And we had a great time doing it. And so we loved doing that wherever we could. Now, later on in the summer, we had a group, Cub Scouts would come up for the day. We used to have Cub Scout day camp. Now, Cub Scouts are 8 to 10 years old, so they're a little bit different than the 15 to 18-year-olds that are running the Cub Scout day camp. And we thought that we would entertain these Cub Scouts with a little bit of theatrics. And something I didn't mention is that Rancho Alegre means happy ranch. And it was pretty much happy until the appearance of Herbie the octopus. So what we did is we started introducing the Cub Scouts. You know, the counselors would come with the Cub Scouts and they would walk by Lake Janus and they would say, "Oh, there's a man-eating octopus in Lake Janus named Herbie. And maybe you'll have an opportunity to see him if you're lucky." So we started priming the pump for these kids. And we basically thought that, you know, it'd be kind of no harm, no foul type of thing. We didn't see much harm in it, but we kept building it up as the week went on. And the Cubs were only there for a week. So every time these counselors would walk by the lake, they'd go, "Have you seen Herbie the octopus?" You know, and so we kept building it up until Friday, the last day that the Cubs were there. And on that day, we had a special event planned for them. Bobby Poole, who worked, one of the camp staff that worked on the aquatic staff, had scuba gear. And he took a tractor inner tube and he cut it up and he wore it in such a way that he looked like some sort of a sea monster. And he dove into Lake Janus and was submerged there, while the counselors went and gathered all the Cub Scouts up to take a look at down to Lake Janus to see whether or not Herbie the octopus would come out or not. Well, so when all the Cub Scouts were there, another aquatic staff member, Jeff Crowder, got out in a canoe and in an attempt to try to draw Herbie out. And of course, as he paddled out in front of all the Cubs, Herbie appeared. He grabbed Jeff Crowder's canoe and turned it over, capsizing it, and then grabbed Jeff and pulled him under the water. And all you could see were bubbles, of course. And just for effect, the guy who ran the archery department was there with a crossbow, Bill Shiver. And he made a couple of shots at Herbie and stuck him in the front of the canoe. And the effect on the Cub Scouts was greater than we had anticipated. So about that time, the camp ranger, Slim Larson, he's about 65 years old and wore a cowboy hat and Wranglers, walked like a cowboy. He comes driving up in his green Chevy pickup with his golden retriever dog, King, in the back. And he pulls up to this scene where there's just mayhem going on. And Cub Scouts are standing in front of Lake Janus crying, and some of them are standing behind the boathouse throwing up. So of course Jeff Crowder was underneath the canoe, you know, breathing the air that was underneath there. And the bottom line is eventually we settled all the Cubs down, and we thought that that would be the end of it. But that wasn't it, because the head scout executive at the time, Bill Gruber, sat down all the camp staff the next day and recounted the stories that he had gotten, all the phone calls that he had gotten from irate parents, trying to explain to us that, you know, what happened to their children, how that they couldn't take their supper at night, how they couldn't sleep, and were having nightmares. So he looked at us very sternly and said, now you guys aren't going to ever do this again, right? And of course we all swore that we would never do anything like that again. But it wasn't even a year later that rumors started circulating about a man eating catfish in Lake Janus. And that's a Toastmaster.